Good afternoon, I'm Dennis Galucki, and welcome to the 415th Imagine Buffalo program and the 37th virtual Imagine lecture hosted by our wonderful Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. Thank you so much for joining us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art and Architecture, History and Nature, or Cezanne, as I pronounce it, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. Now, we're going to start with our speaker shortly, but first, a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted during our speaker's presentation, which will last about 15 minutes. We'll have time for questions at the end, so if you do have a question, please type it into the chat box, and we'll get to as many as we can. This program is being recorded. You'll be able to watch it again later on the library's Facebook and YouTube channels and share the link with your networks. As a reminder, Life Willing will be here on Zoom every Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. with a great lineup of local speakers. Use the same link to join us. Now, this is the first Tuesday of the month, so our focus in the Imagine program is art and creativity. Our theme is imagine a healthy, wealthy, and sustainable community. Therefore, you'd have to imagine place-based lifelong learning. There's a way to measure health in a community, and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation County Rankings will be the subject of today's presentation by our featured speaker, Scott Scanlon. Scott has worked in journalism in South Florida, Central New York, and Western New York for almost 35 years, including the last 8 as editor of Western New York Refresh, a Saturday section in the Buffalo News focused on health, fitness, nutrition, and family life in the greater Buffalo-Niagara region. His stories, including those during the pandemic, look to provide readers information to be their healthiest selves. So now let's welcome Scott Scanlon.
Thanks, Dennis, and thanks for inviting me. Leah, thank you very much for helping me prepare, and hopefully this will work technologically. I am the Refresh editor at the Buffalo News. I've been doing the job for a little over 8 years. And really do try to focus my stories on providing information that's going to improve your wellness, personal wellness. And this presentation is going to focus on that in terms of a larger data set when it comes to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. So I prepared a PowerPoint presentation, so let's get right to that. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So if you don't know, Erie County and most of Western New York have not done very well in the county health rankings when it comes to our health outcomes. And as a matter of fact, the Buffalo-Niagara region is the unhealthiest region in New York State. And this is data that's been collected for more than a decade, and it focuses on a number of things, some of which you may not even think about when it comes to being healthy. But they measure longevity. Obviously, that would be something, and some of the things you would consider. The percentages of low birth weight, child and infant mortality, mental distress and stress, tobacco use, obesity, and excessive drinking, physical activity. Some of these things maybe are a little bit less obvious, but they can measure those in a number of ways and then put a ranking to every county in the United States, not only in New York State. But they also take a look in terms of health and wellness at income inequality, children in poverty, educational status, the availability of primary care doctors and dentists, and a few other things. They've also added a couple of categories in the latest rankings that came out this spring, and that's broadband rates and high school graduation rates. And I'm not I'll tell you about those two really quickly now. Erie County has a broadband rate of about 85%, which is a little bit better than the national rate at 82. But some of our outlying rural counties in Western New York fall into the low to mid 70s in terms of broadband availability. So you can imagine the challenges that some folks face if they don't have computer access at home, and when it comes to education, when it comes to trying to be healthy and to deal with those sorts of things. Hold on just a second. Let me roll with this. And so the latest rankings of the counties in Western New York look like this. And I will tell you that in several cases, they've improved over the last year, and in Erie County, considerably so. So a lot of the things that public health officials and the individuals and the health community have done here in Erie County have started to show up in these rankings. And I'll put a big asterisk on that because this is the first year, because of the pandemic, that these rankings were not listed officially with numbers. But if you're familiar with them and you know how to cheat a little bit like I do, you just click on the individual county and they do have a ranking. Erie County was 56th last year and has climbed up 10 spots to 46. Niagara County was 58th last year, and this year is 55th. So they've done a little bit better. Chautauqua County has jumped from 59 to 53. So that's the good news. The bad news is Orleans County, Allegheny County, Cattaraugus County, and Wyoming County have all dipped in the rankings from the previous year. Genesee County has stayed about the same. So again, we have now 4 instead of 5 counties in the bottom 10 of the 62 counties in New York State when it comes to our health rankings and our health outcomes. So why should it matter to you? Well, it affects all of us personally. In the 8 Western New York counties, each falls below the average statewide length of life, which is 81.4. In Wyoming and Erie counties, we have the highest at 79.2 and 78.7. And again, that is for all folks. But the average life expectancy in Erie County is about 2.5 years less than statewide. And if you are Black in Erie County, you can expect to live 7 years less than the overall state average and 5 years less than whites in Erie County. And I should say too, with these rankings, the data that was used is from 2015 to 2019. When you're talking about a huge data load, you got to use the most recent available. So those are the years we're looking at here. So, and the health disparities when it comes to Blacks and whites are really pronounced in these rankings, and they have been for many years. You look at the total birth weight percentage, and these are Erie County rates. Black children are twice as likely to be born with a low birth weight than white children are. We've already talked about the life expectancy. Child mortality. If you're the number of deaths under age 18 per 100,000, Blacks are 3 times more likely to die in Oswego County, or Oswego, sorry, that's where I used to work, in Erie County, than whites. Infant mortality as well in the first year of life, you're looking at nearly a 3-fold increase. Teen births, births per 1,000 in Erie County are considerably higher for Blacks and Hispanics. And preventable hospital stays are almost twice as high. So you think about preventative hospital stays, that is for conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, things that can be controlled if there is enough time and energy put in on the medical community side, but also on the personal side. And the percentage under 18, so this is children in poverty. A Black or Hispanic resident of Erie County child is more than 4 times likely to be poor than someone who is white. And these involve social determinants of health, which we'll talk a little bit about in some of the upcoming slides. Now, here's the good news, especially in this age of COVID, and I've been having some very animated discussions in my personal life and in my professional life about the need for vaccines when it comes to COVID-19. And if people want to go back to a natural life where everything plays out as it would have before modern medicine, you can take a look at how many of us, including myself, would likely have passed away by now. It has a lot more to do than just vaccines, but we do, despite all of our challenges, we do generally live a life that provides us more health, greater happiness, at least it should, because of that, and more opportunity as we go along. To me, this is the greatest anomaly when it comes to health outcomes in Western New York and Erie County. We trend toward the bottom, except for when it comes to Wyoming County, which does pretty well, but we trend toward the bottom when it comes to health outcomes, although Erie County does considerably, we're in the top 10, we do considerably better when it comes to available health here, health services. So we're in trouble primarily because of our quality of life, what we eat, how we exercise, work, play, and behave, and because of the challenges we've had perennially, right? Poverty, we're still one of the top 10 most segregated regions in the nation. And a quote I think is important here is the rankings make it clear that good health is influenced by many factors beyond medical care, including housing, education, jobs, access to healthy foods, and more. And I don't think you can talk about health anymore without talking about these needs. And you're not going to be able to address health without addressing poverty, without addressing education, without creating opportunities for people to learn more about how they can eat better, how they can exercise more effectively, where they can get services when they need them. And so that's the great challenge, I think, over the next decade here. How can we as a society make services available and actually connect people to them? And there are some tremendous efforts being made as far as that's concerned. So let's talk about wellness. It's the conscious development of the whole self, embarking on a wellness journey in a process searching for the appropriate tools to make you a healthier and happier human being, plus discovering your own effective methods to use these tools for continued growth and development. And wellness is really more important than health when it comes right down to it. They can't be separated, but there's a great personal responsibility that comes with it. And the system is getting better, even though it may not always seem, at providing those opportunities. So now my feeling is we as individuals in Western New York have an obligation to start making better choices and using the tools we have, the wellness tools. The system has changed. Chiropractic care is now covered by health insurance. Most providers provide money or awards for health screenings, which are free to begin with, and as well as nutritional and fitness support. Many gym memberships for health plans right now are covered in full or in part. The UB Medical School a couple of years ago began to offer its first hands-on nutrition class for medical school students. They'll know a little bit more than a lot of doctors we've seen over the years who just tell us to eat better, and that's where the discussion ends. efforts have begun or continue on the medical campus to provide better food for people who not only are patients on the campus, but who work there, and to connect folks with locally produced foods. So some of the strengths in the region involve our fitness opportunities. Today, outdoor fitness classes start, both fitness in the parks and fitness at Canal Side and in a couple of other places. That was my Refresh cover story this past Saturday. So you can go and look at the calendar listing online at buffalonews.com, or if you have a copy of Saturday's paper, it's in there as well. Yoga and Tai Chi has exploded in the region over the last 10 years. The November project, if you're willing to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and be out at Hoyt Lake, you can do a 45-minute cardio and strength training regimen with the others who show up. Canal Side, the Outer Harbor, more than 30 parks in the region are offering these outdoor fitness classes, and some of them continue through the winter. There's cross-country ski lessons. There are running clubs that run during the winter, and a lot of that information is updated in Refresh. So how do you get real? Dr. Bruce Trone, who is the head of the UB Center for Successful Aging, says it's more important to add life to your years than years to your life. Medications can help as far as that's concerned, but some people argue that direct health care only amounts to 80% of wellness for all of us. So how do we do that? During the pandemic and even beforehand, too many people self-medicate with food and alcohol or other drugs. Moderation and balance is the key, and more folks are getting that in the region, and there are more and more services available, many of them free. So what can all of us do for better health? Global Wellness Day is coming up in less than 2 weeks, and the Global Wellness Movement suggests 7 things we can do. I'll run through them really quickly. Walk for an hour. Phil Habistro, who passed away late last year, this was his bailiwick. It's cheap, if not free, for all of us. We can walk, roll, however we get there. But it's great exercise that provides a lot of benefits. Drink more water. And we sometimes forget how vital that is to our well-being. Don't use plastic bottles. They pollute our oceans, and some of them have PFAs that are unhealthy in general. Eat healthier foods produced through natural methods. And understand what we're putting into our bodies when it comes to our foods. Avoid processed foods. Do a good deed to break down your biases and make the world a better place. Have family dinner with your loved ones. Some of us have been forced to do that during the pandemic, and it's worked out pretty well, I think, in terms of building our most important relationships. And this is one I hate to say that I don't follow personally, but it's a good idea to sleep at 10. And regardless when you do go to sleep, it's important to get, even as adults, at least 7 or 8 hours of sleep as we can. And I would suggest an eighth step is to read reliable journalism. Myself and my colleagues at the News have been trained as journalists. We endeavor to separate fact from fiction. We're not perfect, but our goal is to provide valuable information that can help make your lives a little bit better. And I end by just suggesting health is up to you. And when it comes to responsibility, a well person owns up to his or her responsibility for health and happiness and does not allow others to take control over decisions that he or she needs to make for him or herself. And that involves self-awareness, including the process by which one becomes increasingly more aware of the causes and consequences of their behaviors. So much of our health involves the choices that we make personally. And I've learned as I've gotten older that it's so easy to blame, issues, people, others in our past, the challenges that we have, but that's not going to, but living in that place is not going to make any of us happier or healthier. And we don't have complete control, as the pandemic has shown me, but we do have some, and it's up to us to take that control as we can. I'll leave this on the screen for a minute in terms of some helpful websites, and then I'm happy to take any questions that folks have.
Scott, that was well summarized. Thank you very much. Our friend Phil Haberstroh would be very pleased with your mention of his efforts. So how are, Leah, do we, let's invite everybody again to submit questions in the chat box. Leah will monitor that, but let's begin. It was gratifying to hear that Erie County especially moved up. I think you said 10 notches. We have been staying at the bottom 5, it seems, in New York State for the last several years. You'd like to think maybe something is changing, and let's hope so. It's 1 year doesn't make a trend, but maybe we're heading in the right direction. And especially your observation that we rank fairly well for clinical services, but that leaves the onus sort of on us, if I'm reading it right. Would you reiterate that point? It's not the School of Medicine, it's not the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus that's laying down on the job. It sounds like it's us.
Yes, and this data is measuring our behavior, all of our behavior. And yeah, we've got some work to do. And I would say with the ranking itself that the report says take this year's rankings with a caveat. They didn't spend as much time on the ranking system as they did beforehand. And so don't be surprised if that number maybe is a little bit higher next year. But we are making inroads, and we do have that. I hate the word infrastructure because I think it's overused, but we do have the health infrastructure here that we need. And it's now with the pandemic, it's plugged in to other health services and other regions and other parts of the country for those who may have some serious conditions that can be treated better elsewhere. So there are going to be fewer and fewer excuses moving forward for those of us who have preventable conditions. When our docs tell us, look, you got to eat, we can't just give you a pill for everything. You got to eat better. You got to exercise more. You got to try to take care of yourself.
Sounds good. Leah, how are we doing? Questions coming in?
We have a comment followed by a question. They say, it's good to see that some of the numbers for Erie County data have gotten better, but the numbers are still dismal. During COVID, we heard that children were not getting their regular checkups, especially those in poorer communities. I suspect the year-end numbers from 2020 and 2021 might be worse. What can we do to get the community to care about wellness programs, especially those who don't have insurance?
I think there are some great projects and programs that are going on now. And this is the tough part. I did a story a few weeks ago about an effort on the east side at 1021 Broadway. I think I've got the address correct. But this is right next to the Broadway Market. And 10 nonprofits that deal with various aspects of healthcare, from mental health, dental health, and overall health, child development, better parenting. They've all gotten together in this building in the midst of some of the poorest zip codes in our region. And their goal is, at first, is to just get out in the community and understand what the needs are. And Buffalo is similar to other parts of the country, but in a sense on a leading edge, where healthcare workers, people on the front line, and administrators are focused on listening to what people need instead of trying to drive things from the top down when it comes to delivery. And I think that is going to be a winning recipe over time.
We have another question. What is Wyoming County, a neighboring county, doing that is causing them to rank so much better than Erie?
And I think a lot of that has to do with a much smaller population that is much more settled. There's not as much diversity in the county. And it's a story that's been on my list for a while. So maybe I'll try to get to that over the next year or so.
And how can we get more people vaccinated in the city of Buffalo, especially in the zip codes where it's very low?
And that has been a hard nut to crack. If you saw a story by one of my colleagues, Sandra Tan, on the front page a couple of Sundays ago, you'll see the pockets. And this is not only an urban issue. There are some rural communities as well. So politics has come into play. That can be pretty challenging. And this is a situation where families can maybe have an impact, where primary care docs, and primary care doctors have really encouraged the ability of them to get more vaccines in their offices, have them available when they're having appointments. And I think, as the questioner suggests, we need to get folks back in for their regular checkups. And I think once that starts to happen at a greater level, that will work. And there is a safety net here with the organizations that are down on Broadway and other parts of the city. There's some really exciting things that are happening in the Medicaid community that I'll be writing about in coming months. And some practices have done far better at vaccinating their patients. So the question is, how do you bring more patients in as things improve? And I think just the pandemic improving over time is going to have an impact on those vaccination rates as well.
Great. Those are all the questions we have, but there was one more comment that says, Scott, we love reading Refresh each week. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. It's my privilege to be able to do this job in my hometown.
Well, I second that motion. Scott, you do a great job. You mentioned the Global Wellness Day. We had started the last few years before the pandemic creating a Saturday program. It's always the second Saturday of the month in June. And we walked from the library to different venues, a 1 mile walk, just as a way to mark the day and try to show some activity here in Buffalo. We had planned to do it to the Allentown Art Festival last year, and then suddenly life changed. Let me read, Scott, a couple of sentences that are on the homepage of the county ranking system that you've been referencing. Health is where we live. The County Health Rankings and Roadmaps program compares the health of nearly all counties in the United States to others within its own state and supports coalitions tackling the social, economic, and environmental factors that influence health. Finally, the annual rankings, this is from the Robert Wood Johnson's Foundation's rankings. The annual rankings provide a revealing snapshot of how health is influenced by where we live, learn, work, and play. As the rankings provide a starting point for change, the roadmaps provide guidance and tools to understand the data and strategies that communities can use to move from education to action. So today is really part of that movement, Scott. That's why I invited you. How would we create a culture of health? We're going to be doing a series of 10 Imagine programs starting at the end of this month to look at creating a culture of sustainability. And I'd argue the two go hand in hand. We just can't keep talking about it and keep shrugging our shoulders and saying, oh, well, I guess Erie County is going to be on the bottom of the list. Once again, nobody knows how to figure out. We can do better than that. And that's the attempt. So my suggestion is, folks, there's a group of you here, take this link, share it with your family members, your own networks of the audio, of the video that will be archived in the library's Imagine program, both on Facebook and on their media site. That link will be, I think, shown at the end. And, get the word out. Scott, you've done a great job to take numbers that can be numbing sometimes and made them visual. And that's the goal of this program. So we thank you for that great effort. Scott, do you have any concluding words before we introduce next week's program?
I would just say, and I have thought this all through the pandemic, that what we all do matters. Maybe we don't change the world, but maybe we can change the way things work in our neighborhood, in our home, in our community, in our region. And every little bit helps. And you know what? I mean, we should all feel that that some people at least are very thankful. Probably most people are very thankful at the sacrifices and contributions that each of us have made in our ways to get through this pandemic and to be coming out the other side. And I think we're in for a really exciting summer as we get around and we get out. And so better health begins now.
Thank you, Scott. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to let everyone know that several of our libraries are now offering sports equipment for families to borrow. You can visit any of these libraries for lacrosse, basketball, soccer, or tennis kits. They're available at the Central, Leroy, Coles, Elaine Pantee, Lackawanna, Gonzales, Newstead, Town of Collins, or Anna Reinstein libraries.
That's a newer program, Leah, and
Yes, it is.
I'm glad that you mentioned it. The status of all the library branches are open, I assume?
Sorry?
The status of being open, are all the libraries in the system, Buffalo and Erie County Public Library System, are they open to the public and have been, I know, for some time? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yep, they are all open.
All right, good. So returning to normal. All right, I will thank you, Scott, very much for a great job. And thank you, folks, for joining us today.
Yes.
Join us next week, same time, same Zoom link, when we will be talking with Father William Judd Weixner and Reverend Tom Yorty. Now, they're going to be discussing almost a continuation of this topic. Theirs will be building a culture of empathy from Franciscan spirituality to Schweitzer's reverence for life ethic. Now, that topic is the theme for week 6 at Chautauqua this summer. They've been doing a joint, primarily a digital program last year, and remains to be seen how this year will flow, but it will certainly be digital. And our Buffalo Day at Chautauqua is during this week of building a culture of empathy. So our day has been reduced to an hour, and a virtual hour at that. And our 2 speakers next week that I just mentioned, Father William Judd Weixner and Reverend Tom Yorty from Westminster, will be in that Buffalo Day, taking this very same title and developing it for over an hour as part of the Department of Religion. It's a big deal. Buffalo Day has now been combined with the regular programming at Chautauqua. It always had been, but now it's part of this digital Zoom format. So stay tuned for that. Get a preview by tuning in next week and listening to that and being part of the discussion. I'm Dennis Galecki. Be well and have a good day.